Hello, folks. Welcome back to the first Techthusiasm live stream in a few weeks. I am refreshed, I guess you could say, and back from our family vacation and back to everything, back to the realities of home life and responsibilities and work and all that. So I figured, hey, Sunday's not going to work for a live stream today, given the holiday. So why don't we just go ahead and try a Saturday afternoon hangout here. I do hope to be back to a regular live streaming schedule coming up into the next week. Maybe get back on with Brad and some other special guests coming up on the Wednesday nights, and or kind of the weekend hangout. So as you're coming in, pop a message in the chat. Let me know who's out there, and question of the day: what's your vacation plans for the year? Have you already taken one? Do you have one planned? Where are you going? And all of that. We had a really good time. Muse on it for a few minutes. So it's been a while since I've been on such a long kind of hiatus. I think like usually our family vacations and stuff have been about a week, maybe 10 days or so maximum. But the full 2 weeks felt like a long time. And getting back to all the things that need to be taken care of here. But we did some pretty cool stuff. In some ways, I'm almost a little sad that the channel has kind of become so more wholly focused on home theater rather than the general technology, because I think there was like kind of some cool technology aspects to our vacation, but I'll talk about them here, but I don't think they would necessarily fly as individual videos. And then we'll catch up a little bit on some things in the home theater realm. Curious what everybody might have been doing with their spaces over the last couple weeks. Have you bought any new equipment? I've definitely been working on some ideas and some things even this morning quite a bit, plotting out some plans and next steps and all of that. But for our trip, we were pretty much down in Florida and the Caribbean for the last 2 weeks. Flew into Tampa, drove over to Orlando, spent a night and a day at Legoland. My son is a super Lego aficionado, building and programming this stuff. He actually had a robotics competition yesterday that was pretty sweet, all based on Lego Mindstorm and Robot Inventor coding. But Legoland is pretty good. So to the parents out there, and if you're a Lego kind of junkie yourself, if you haven't been to Legoland or one of them, I think there's 3 actually in the US. It was really cool. They had the massive mini land was probably the coolest parts. My kids' first visit to a real amusement park, kind of like riding a real fixed roller coaster. They dug that. But man, Legoland is set up so well for families, just from everything, the way the hotel works, the way the rooms are structured, the park, and all of that. I think they really know their market, and make being there as a family really easy and nice. Hotel lobby gets a little loud, but that was pretty fun. Some cool stuff there. And then the second day we were on to the Kennedy Space Center. So the real kind of tech part of it. Love the Saturn rocket museum there. If you're any kind of a space fan, you like outer space, you like following NASA rockets and all that sort of stuff, definitely get yourself to the Kennedy Space Center sometime. That was our first time there as a family, my second time there individually. And as an engineer, walking the path of the Saturn rocket just like almost basically brings a tear to my eye, just with the scope of the engineering and construction and all that went into it. And if you think back to like the 60s and these guys doing all this stuff for the first time, just the guts to strap yourself on top of something like that and shoot off into the atmosphere. Just crazy even to think about. But we ended up there just by happenstance. SpaceX launched one of the Falcon rockets. They were putting up some of the Starlink satellites on that rocket. So over at the Saturn V museum area, where you kind of bus over from the main visitor center, they have a grandstand set up in these bleachers, and we got there just in time to watch this rocket launch. And so they had a narrator. He's talking all about what's going on. They had visuals up on a big screen as well. So we were like 6 miles away from the rocket launch, was able to kind of see the thing light up in the big cloud and watch it rise. It was the coolest part, though, I think, was it took about 30 seconds for the noise of the boost, the noise of the rocket, to actually hit us in the stand. So you're sitting there for a while, right? 30 seconds in silence, basically just watching this thing go. And then all of a sudden that massive sound wave hits and rolls over and rumbling, big boom. And then it goes up into the sky, and the extra stages kick off, and these big clouds and plumes and all this stuff happens. So that was really neat. Again, kind of totally lucky happenstance that we just happened to be there on the day, and managed to get in like just in time to sit down. And a few minutes later, that thing went off. Then we did a cruise, Southern Caribbean cruise, visited on Royal Caribbean, visited Haiti, visited Aruba, visited Curacao. I really liked Curacao. Awesome beach time. Did some banana boat riding, did some snorkeling. The cruise, we were on the Odyssey of the Seas, which up until this summer, I think is the biggest class of ships that Royal Caribbean has. Massive technology on that thing. And we've done a handful of cruises in the last 20 years, but it's been a while since our last one, probably more than 10 years since our last one. So it's kind of cool how the technology of the ships and all of that has advanced. It's all based on your smartphone now. Basically, you load the Royal Caribbean app, and that maps you through everything you do on the ship, activities, schedules, booking things, and all that stuff. And they had a really, really wicked, cool theater on the ship. We watched a couple of the shows. We kind of made some mistakes in our trip as well, in terms of when we chose dinner times and some stuff like that. So we didn't get to maximize some of our use of the ship. But man, the theater, the technology of the theater was just insane in terms of being able to open the stage and lights and motion and like on all the stuff that they did. There was a magic show, comedian, and a big stage show that was pretty impressive with these monitors and projectors, and like almost made things look like holograms, and the actors on the stage interacting with video elements on these like almost like visual and acoustically transparent screens, which was pretty wild. That looked like, an image, a projected image sitting on the stage, and this actor standing like next to it or behind it and interacting with it, kind of plain as day. And it was like a superhero like stage show, like a group of Avengers essentially fought a villain. So that was right up my alley as well. And then a couple days in Miami. After that, we stayed in South Beach. That was interesting. The food was impeccable. I posted a couple, or at least one community post, I think, when we went to the Cuban place. And then, man, we had, I would say, some of the best pizza we've ever had in our life. Miami South Beach there, especially, we've got celiac in the family, so we need to be gluten-free. And I swear, these Italian guys at this one-off pizza shop made pizza, gluten-free pizza that was better than any gluten pizza that I think I've ever had. And we were watching them make it, real Italian dudes throwing the crust up in the air and catching it and cooking in the oven right there. And we were watching them, and they saw my son watching, like, hey, come on back here. So they had him actually make his own little pizza, and he cooked it and was able to have that. So that kind of made that. But I'm sitting pretty tan. You can see I was wearing my watch all week. Didn't get burnt, thankfully. It was hot, upper 80s, mid to upper 80s everywhere. I think unseasonably warm. If you're down in Florida, sound off. How are you feeling about Florida weather? But we did some horseback riding outside of Fort Lauderdale. We tried to do some intercoastal waterway kayaking to see some manatees. We didn't see any alligators in our little Everglade boat ride either. I think we got lucky with the rocket, but our family is like completely devoid of luck when it comes to seeing wildlife on vacation and paying for these tours to go see animals and then not see them. I was joking with my wife, I'm like, forget tours to go see wild animals. Like, if we want to see animals, we're going to the zoo, wherever we're at, because we have like no luck. We'll go into the UP, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, like devoid of people, should be wildlife everywhere. And like, we don't see a deer, and then we'll have like deers walk through our neighborhood at home here. It makes no sense, but it's just kind of our family luck. So a couple of shout outs to folks coming in, friends of the channel, and a lot of our regulars. Julius, how's it going? Thanks. Got Robin, Zeus Gaming Channel, welcome. Terminator Juice as well, how's it going? So yeah, let me know, folks. What did I miss? What have you done in your home theaters over the last 2 weeks? Did you buy anything? Did you make any upgrades? Order anything? Post them in the comments, and let me know what's up. over the last 2 weeks, Terminator says, seems like you're always on vacation. Yeah. Well, this has been a big one. I've kind of been alluding to it because we booked it earlier in the year. It was a spring break thing with some friends of ours. And, but man, it was a lot. So I keep tempering the expectations of the family. It's like you can lower your expectations for travel for the remainder of 2023, because this was an expensive one. But we'll still do a few other things, just not at this scale again, probably this year. But I look forward to another cruise. I really liked being on a cruise ship again. I think it's an awesome vacation, and it's a pretty huge value as well. But over the last 2 weeks here, thankfully, before we left, I had a whole gamut of content ready to go. So everything that you saw, being posted to the channel, trying to pull up my history here on the side. It's not loading. Everything that you saw was made ahead of time and kind of scheduled. So I think there was some pretty interesting stuff in there. Right before we left, I think the video on the streaming versus disc went live. I was pretty proud of that. That one created a lot of conversation in terms of the diehards, right? Kind of come out when you have this versus that, even though both things can be great kind of in their own right or for their own reasons. But I love that debate, and deciding, in home theater, constantly we're making choices like it is for most of life, right? We have to choose equipment. We've got to choose style of equipment, brands, models, features, structure of our systems. We have to choose sources, right? You're going to set up all this equipment. You got to source video and audio from somewhere. And, are you going to stream it? Are you going to buy it? Are you going to buy it digitally? Are you going to buy it physically? And so it's a debate that rages in my own mind quite a lot. And so I enjoy having that debate with other folks. Of course, the Lumigen kind of review went up. I wanted to do more content in the Lumigen review, but as I was talking that one through and looking at the time, it already hit like 20 minutes. So I kind of cut that one off a little bit, and so there'll probably be a part 2 coming up. I didn't even really kind of get to the idea of like what could be improved, which is one of the main things that I like to talk about when I get my hands on equipment, especially again, as an engineer and a software designer and all that stuff. I take those kind of elements of the things that I buy in technology and whatnot pretty seriously. And I think there are definitely some things that they could add and enhance around the Lumigen. I did kind of punt on the HDR. Is the Lumigen HDR tone mapping better than the JVC? Because I didn't really get a chance to evaluate that deeply, so I didn't have a formed opinion about it. I was actually hoping, it's still here. It was supposed to go back before we left, and I didn't get the shipping information that I needed to be able to send it along or send it back. Matt Blair High Performance Solutions is probably eager to have that back because it was going into a new demo room for his business that he's been in the process of setting up. But in any case, I'm going to have it shipped out here within the next day to 2. I was hoping in between coming back and maybe shipping it back to Matt on Monday to hook it up one more time and focus on HDR, because I'm sure I would feel pretty good to say that the HDR tone mapping and performance of this device should be better than the JVC. I can't corroborate it with my own experience. And again, I didn't have the time. I was focused more in my use on the integration bits and pieces and filling the screen and scaling and aspect ratio management and stuff like that. So to sit extra time and go back and forth between like specific HDR scenes and all that, I just didn't have the ability to do it. So I was hoping to maybe hook it up and do that, as well as also hook it up differently in order to test the audio reclocking, the audio improvement capabilities of the 5 series. That's a 5348 Lumigen, the big dog. I had been running it just for the simplicity of my setup, sources to the Anthem preamp, to the Lumigen, to the projector. And when you do it that way, it doesn't process audio. if you run sources into the Lumagen, into the preamp, to the projector, then the Lumagen will apply like cleanup, what they call reclocking. You call it processing, but it's just augmentations, I guess, to the audio stream. And you remove jitter from a digital signal, whatever. It's supposed to clean it up and make it better. And by and large, the sentiment seems to be that it makes a nice improvement into the clarity, audio quality, and stuff like that. So I would have liked to have evaluated that a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to have the chance. We've got to dye some Easter eggs today, family stuff going on, family time tomorrow, and then it'll be back to Matt. So even though I asked for a couple extra days to hook it up, I don't think I'm even going to get it connected. However, I'm evaluating the purchase to kind of more permanently get a hold of one of these things. And so I've had some conversations with folks, talking to Chris, talking to Matt, and even talking to the folks at Lumagen as well, who were interested, or curiosity was piqued because of the content on the channel for the video and the stuff, doing the stuff with Chris. So that's pretty cool. So there's a good chance, I think, that one of these may end up sitting over here in the rack, kind of just debating, okay, if and when, settling on some pricing, and then also trying to figure out what model. I think I can just get away with the simplest model. I kind of think, for the way that I run my system and the way that I want to have my system be a little bit more flexible, particularly for the channel, to be able to connect different sources and manage sources easier, that I'm probably better off, just despite the idea that, yeah, if you get a 5 series Lumagen and you put your sources into that Lumagen to the preamp, you might be able to improve some clarity in your audio. I think, to me, the flexibility of switching through the preamp and having the zone 2 and all of that stuff managed there, then going to the Lumagen is of more benefit to me. So if you're considering one of these things, keep in mind that the model that I purchase is a little bit influenced by system flexibility in that case. So there's a 4, I'm going to forget the model numbers now, 4222, I think, is the one that we were talking about. And then there's also 4242 is generally available, the smallest of the 4 series Lumagens. However, there's also a 4240 that has basically 2 inputs. I understand it's 2 HDMI inputs and 2 outputs. One that's combined video audio, one that's audio only, and that's it. So if you have a lot of sources, video sources, that you would want to run through it, that one wouldn't really suit you. But if you're going to switch everything through another device, again, like the Anthem, then that one really only need 1 input anyway. So I think the 4240 might be the ticket. But I need to still weigh the cost. It's still some money. And I have to weigh that against the other plans that I already had in mind for technology and home theater spending and all of that stuff this year. So we'll see. Conversation is ongoing. This one will be going back, but I'm pretty sure I'll probably end up with one of these things in the system here sooner than later. So even if I don't get to the HDR comparison, I feel good enough about the way this device performed. I would still very much love to see a Mad VR. So folks that I've been talking to, collaborators that I've been talking to, if you guys can get me a Mad VR, send it. I'd love to hook it up and play around with it. But I think there's a lot of benefit in kind of managing the cost of getting the benefit of the processing in a powerful and capable, but the most kind of economic device I can choose. And I think the 4240 Lumagen may stack up to be that. So we'll see. Conversations are ongoing, and we'll see as well what this might displace in terms of any other plans for the year. I really want to try to drive all of my home theater and electronic upgrades and purchases, based on the channel here. A couple of questions coming in. Z's asking, I'm looking for some good software to rip my DVDs, my Blu-rays, and my CDs. What do you recommend on a Windows PC? So at a high level, I would say there's a whole bunch of content here on the channel. I've got, if you look in the playlists, there's a physical media playlist that I made. And inside there, I collected a whole bunch of tutorials about Make MKV. I recently actually reviewed a piece of DVD specific ripping and re-encoding software. And so that's there, some stuff about servers and Synologies and playback, like using Infuse and stuff like that. So in general, there's another one as well that discusses, another video as well, sorry, that discusses what kind of format do you want to rip to, MKV or ISO. There's definitely pros and cons, very strong merits to either one. But you got to answer other questions for yourself as well, which is like, what are you going to play your stuff on? Are you going to play it on a Shield and Plex? Are you going to play it on an Apple TV and Infuse? Are you going to buy as a PD or something along those lines? Are you going to use a PC? So you need to decide MKV or ISO. First of all, if you're going to rip to ISO, I like any DVD historically. That program has worked well for me. If you're going to do MKV, I like Make MKV. and watch the videos and do the learning, particularly if you're going to do MKVs, because you got to know the details of the disc and what you're ripping and how to select stuff and get the right things off the disc into your resulting file. But all those programs that I mentioned, and there's a couple other things that you'll probably want too. Subtitle Edit is a great program that you'll need to manage and make sure that you're getting the right subtitles. Media Info is there. All that stuff works on a Windows PC just fine. Of course, you'll need a drive. Apparently, there are some new drives that are rippable, purchasable, and rippable directly off of Amazon now. I think some Pioneers or whatever. I don't want to give specific recommendations because I don't have that fully corroborated, but I have seen that mentioned here and there. And but otherwise, you can go to the Make MKV forums, and there are people that sell drives there that will be guaranteed to have the right firmware and be flashed, and have all the right stuff to be able to do the ripping. Just going through comments. Julius, did you ever get the headphones? No. So it would have been really nice actually to have them before we left for the flights and that. So listening to some things on the plane, I just stuck to a little pair of like in-ear wired Beats that I bought a while ago. So I'm still on the hunt for these. And my intent is probably still to buy a pair of Focal Bathis. I don't know exactly how you say that. But they did really well in the headphone shootout that they did out of Value Electronics. A lot of folks are really, I'm seeing those pop up a lot, actually. I did have a chance as well to get a really great deal on a pair of Martin Logans. That's still, I think they're Martin Logans. That's still an option as well. But I like the parity of buying the Focals while I have the Focal speakers, and that's probably not going to change, permanently anytime soon. So yeah, that purchase is still pending as well. I kind of halted because I now, after planning out what I thought might be kind of like a revenue plan for the channel for the year, seeing what those numbers might be, and then analyzing, okay, how do I want to spend it? And I don't want to, my goal for this year fundamentally is not to go into the day job, family, household cash flow for a whole bunch of electronics. I spent a lot of money in these last 2 years, 2021, end of 2022, doing things, buying things, redoing the room and all that. And so just for the purposes of household finance committee consensus, that really needs to slow down. So I'm really trying to hold my spending to what the channel is able to cover, spend everything the channel makes, and it offsets the revenue nicely for tax purposes and stuff like that. So I had a plan, and things are changing very, very rapidly. The channel generated actually some pretty solid revenue through the first quarter here, doing the consulting sessions kicked up, and a few other things. So I had a little more money to work with, or it looks like I'm going to have perhaps more money to work with, but I'm also identifying all kinds of things now to spend more money on. I got the MDX. I wasn't really planning to want to have to buy that. I wasn't really planning on the headphones. And then of course I wasn't planning on a processor. So yeah, everything is choices and trade-offs and limited. So we'll see. But I would like to have those. One of the other things that I want to really try to spur the household into action on, and I talked to my wife about this prior to vacation, is getting our office space more dedicated for me. Right now in our office room, we have 4 desks. Like we put one in there for every family member, but I do this stuff all the time. And I also sit at that desk 3 days a week for my day job. And the kids never use their desks anymore. They've become like heaped piles of, of their stuff in my background. Drives me nuts. I'm an organized OCD kind of person. I like a clean environment. And so I was appealing to the family that, please, can we get the kids out of the office? Let's eliminate their desks from here, move their stuff. And so I can have a place that I go to in the mornings and sit down, and I don't feel stressed out because of the pile of things behind me. And actually getting back into comic collecting a little bit. So I'd like to set up a nice little display in that space. But part of my intent, if I can make the office nice as well, is that would be like a YouTube studio spot. So instead of kind of just randomly being in the basement, I can sit at my desk. I have a nice background, and then boom, have the great headphones to use there. Get a nice microphone, up overhead, and I can mount it on my desk and have it there. Get some more permanent, simple lighting coming out, and be able to sit there and really make nice looking content with a nice background. And so the headphones, just rounding about all the way back around to Julius's question, the headphones are part of that plan. Just running down comments here. Terminator Juice, watch the first 2 minutes of Top Gun Maverick on your JVC MP5 using Paramount Plus. Yeah, if I recall correctly, I did the face-off, streaming face-off for Top Gun Maverick, and then double checked it when Paramount Plus offered it, and I think it was pretty decent. Certainly visual, right? Visual, and we've showed this in the video from a week or so ago. The gap of video quality from a high quality streaming delivery to disc or Kaleidescape is closing. We're at roughly like 5x. Was it 5x bit rate, I think, on or no, 3x bit rate, I believe it was, on video, and only 5x on audio. Audio is still the bigger part of that equation. I haven't done it yet though, but one of the things I'm planning to do, spin out quickly, is actually one of the cool things that's transpired in home theaterdom since I've been gone, is we got some really big movies on their way, essentially. And so keeping an eye on the Kaleidescape store, we got John Wick 4 coming. Creed 3 just hit. The new Avatar is available to watch at home. We got the second Shazam, even like Dungeons and Dragons, the new Scream. I might have already said it, but Super Mario Brothers. There's some really cool movies coming soon. And so some of those are, of course, already available to watch. And I'm really curious to see what the streaming bit rates are. So I'll probably very soon here, maybe today, but certainly into the week coming up. I'll be picking up all those movies on iTunes. We'll see which one of them's port. I don't remember all the studios sourcing those movies, but we'll see which ones port to Movies Anywhere. And I'll do my regular kind of streaming checks, because man, the last big movie one that we did a few weeks ago now, Black Panther, right, Wakanda Forever, 44 megabit, basically disc level bitrate peak on the iTunes stream, which was pretty wild. And I mean, the value and the weight of some of these titles coming out right now, if they're not going to put higher quality into those movies, like the second Avatar, then they're probably not going to do it at all. But I'm really curious to check those rates. So I got to go make some purchases on iTunes and then spin out the content on those. See where we're at. So if you got more questions, keep them coming. Of course, as always, super chat, super thanks, and all that is very much appreciated. Rob, only new thing. So Zapiti Neo, cool. Oh wait, oh no, you didn't buy it. Now it takes 90 seconds to start a movie. Used to be 3. Was there a firmware update? I wonder if they broke something. Zapiti is an interesting animal. And I've owned as a PD for a while in the past, not the current generation of their hardware. It would have been the last generation, and used it for a while and ultimately ended up kind of moving it on. Um, I think amongst the players that are out there, that brand is the most appealing to me in terms of what they offer, nicest movie walls and stuff like that. But to me, those players, you go to AVS forum, the owners threads, or the AV forums in the UK, the owners threads, and it's just like it's a roller coaster or a treadmill of like people liking the device and then things not working and people having trouble with it. And yeah, that's unfortunate. Report it definitely. Hopefully you get another firmware update and fix it up. So this was back, SBCscape talking about make MKVs versus ISOs. I was looking back actually at some of the channel performance. I think I posted the community post. March was a really good month. December, January, February were good, but they were kind of flat. March is good. We flattened out a little bit since then. But I was looking today and just kind of pruning, cleaning up some video elements on the channel and stuff like that, and looking at the totality of the content on the channel and sorting by number of views. I'm kind of, as maybe not surprised, but it's an interesting data point that, amongst say the top 30 videos on the channel, a significant portion of the most watched content is related to ripping discs and video servers and stuff like that. Literally video number 4 is the Infuse review. And then other ones, a lot related to Apple TV, but a variety of like the make MKV, how to rip to MKV, ISO versus MKV, how to do it properly in all of those videos. There's like ripping physical media to a server amongst like the top 30 videos on the channel represents close to a third of them. And I thought that was interesting. It makes me wonder, that's an area that I should be talking about a little bit more. And I'm going to have some polls coming out pretty soon. Well, over the course of at least the next couple of weeks, asking the audience, like, what's some more stuff that you want to see? So definitely sound off in the comments and let me know, like, what kind of content am I putting out that you're finding the most interesting and helpful, and all of that. I'm curious to know. But folks seem to be pretty generally interested in the content ripping stuff. And it's always up for debate. That's the fun thing about it, right? So Terminator's saying, maybe I'm just old school. I don't see the point of spending thousands of dollars equipment and hundreds of hours ripping, just to not take a minute to put a disc into a player. Yeah, I mean, that's completely viable. I think historically too, there is a nice feeling for some of us that are maybe a little bit older, right? That we were already into this hobby when DVD started, that like ejecting that tray and putting your movie in and closing it has just like a tactile, on a really nice high quality player, the closing of that tray, that feels like movie time. That the physical sensation that goes along with that feels like movie time. And so I can definitely see that, people love the physical stuff, and, having collections of things and being able to organize them and setting your shelves up exactly how you want them to be, in terms of, ordering your things and structuring it and getting your hands on it to play it. So, the cool thing is this hobby has choices, right? And if that's your thing and that's what you like, you've got the choice, hopefully now and for a while to come, to be able to buy the physical and use the physical. And that, some people like that, but they don't want to have the experience of having to get the thing off the shelf, or they're trying to distribute it around to multiple zones and multiple screens, or maybe even outside the house. So they want to have the content served, and it's worth the time for them to set that stuff up. And, as it is right now, we're still able to do that. We'll see how that continues to evolve. I think there's definitely risk factors and pitfalls, and no shortage of cons, dangers, whatever, to the ripping game as well. And then, we've got accessible digital like iTunes, and we've got luxury digital like Kaleidescape. So lots of choices. Oh, Shane, hey, welcome, Shane. Awesome to see you here. Yeah, pricey hobby for sure. And there are always ways to spend more. At least for me. I don't know if anybody out there. I only know a couple people in this hobby where the budget, I guess their budgets negate much of a concern, right? Most of us, we got to make choices. So Chintapod asking, or do things over time, right? And that's really kind of what I'm trying to lay out a roadmap for myself now. Are you going to buy a G3? Interesting question. So last year when I upgraded the X900H to the G2, I was kind of going into it thinking like, wow, I'd really like to do this every year for the content primarily, right? To be able to do it for the channel, pick up the new model TV every year in order to be able to check it out, make fresh content about it and do stuff like that. I think we've got a really cool, say little click. It's funny, like amongst all of the home theater tech YouTubers, they kind of segment into groups and stuff. And, but there's a handful of guys that are very, very focused on televisions, right? And so they make TV focused content, and which model and specs and how is this one doing and how are they evolving with firmware updates and sales and what's the best one to buy at this time of the year, right? They do that all year round. I don't think I'm interested in making the channel be a TV channel, but I think it would have been fun to be able to have the current model every year. That said, as I was alluding to earlier, I've got to make some choices about what I buy for myself. And so I don't think I'm going to buy a TV this year. First of all, I think like the G3 is looking great. I haven't checked into all of the new TV content, but it looks like just based on the titles and the thumbnails that some of the YouTube friends are putting up, it looks like the G3 is representing itself pretty nicely. However, I believe that the 83-inch G3, which is, I wouldn't go any smaller than 83, isn't necessarily MLA, and it doesn't have all the advancements that the smaller sizes have. So just from like an upgrade value for dollar perspective, I believe, and I need to corroborate this, so take this with a grain of salt, but I don't think there's as much value there to go from an 83 G2 to an 83 G3. And the QD OLED models are only up to 77. And I'm just drawing a line in the sand that I will not put a television smaller than 83 in my living room again. So those concepts alone probably just mean I'm going to sit on the G2 for a year. And again, as I was talking earlier, I've got a few other things that I would like to have certainly ahead of a television model side grade. So the only way that I would probably do an upgrade on the TV is if the channel allowed it to happen, for almost nothing. Like if LG or some of these brands are willing to send me some product or whatever. But at least right now, I'm still amongst the smaller of a lot of the guys doing this, and so I don't have all those connections quite yet to get all that stuff. And it's no small endeavor shipping huge flat panels around. So we'll see how things evolve. If I do end up, finding myself into a yearly kind of TV upgrade cycle, but as it is right now, I'm not likely to change the TV this year. Terminator Juice. I've had my JVC for 2 weeks now. That's the NP5 and out of the box and film remote. Don't see any reason to pay for calibration with how good it looks. Have I seen a professionally calibrated JVC? I'm trying to think. Most of the Michigan theater guys around ABS, there's a lot of JVC and there's a lot of Epson. And I've been to a variety of rooms, but I don't think anybody's sprung for a full cal. Andy Pixel Pusher from ABS Forum has been around to a few guys' rooms, and he's been gracious enough to run like the JVC Auto Cal on people's projectors. He did it for me in my room, which saved me the trouble of getting set up to, at least for now, to do that myself. So yeah, I haven't had the luxury of a full calibration. Now that said, if I go the route of picking up this Lumigen and having it more permanently, Probably my first question to Chris will be, Chris, are you coming to Southeast Michigan or the Midwest anytime soon? And I think it would be cool to do that, as well for the content. So we'll see. But I can say if ignorance is bliss, I have happily used my JVC NX7 for a long time. I bought it when they were released, and it's been in there up, still to today. And I only even had AutoCal ran on it not even a year ago, and I'm happy with it as well. I think out of the box performance is pretty solid. Mia Francis, I've been loving Kscape content. I understand it's niche, but there's not enough content out there for it. So thanks for making it. Yeah, my pleasure. So I've got kind of a deep history with K. Been an owner for a while, and it's an interesting animal because it's expensive. It's a luxury product for sure. And I think I'm going to do a video coming up actually on what it means from a marketing perspective. What does it mean for a product to be a luxury product? Because there's very specific marketing science behind that I don't think that people that get really emotionally bent out of shape about Kaleidescape being what it is and at its price point, maybe that will help understand a little bit, or help them understand a little bit. So I really tried to carve out a niche on the channel, covering Kaleidescape as thoroughly as I do, both as an engineer, being pragmatic about it, that it has room for improvements, and it has shortcomings, and it has virtues. And Kaleidescape is kind of it's an is what it is proposition. It's hard to justify. You can't, unless you're just sitting here uber wealthy and you don't care about the money. It's just not something that you willy-nilly write a check for. But it's hard to rationalize its value. But when you have it, the people that have it, we really do tend to like it. So yeah, like I said, I've tried to. So I appreciate that recognition. Thank you. Ooh, jumped ahead on me here. So Terminator says, Shane and Don did a roast in my theater last Friday, and it went really well. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Got the wink. Got Rob. Yeah, I think the roasting idea is pretty neat. So I'm friends with through the channel and communicating with people. Friends with a bunch of folks in Shane's Click. We haven't had an opportunity to connect directly, but hey, if you ever want another body, another voice on some of those roasts, let me know. I'd be happy to join you guys, or put my room up in there too as well. Would be fun. Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, TV updates are minute every year. Yeah, upgrading the TV, particularly this year, would be only for the content, and I don't think I could do it without spending money out of pocket, and that money's better spent on other parts of the system. So U2 someday one. Chris Steering just calibrated my projector and Lumagen. There you go. Yep, recommend it. If you get a Lumagen, get it all done together. Yeah. So Chris worked on the profile for this one, and then of course we did the stream a couple weeks ago, talking all about the setup and that. But if I end up with that in there more permanently, I would certainly like to have him, go the whole gamut of setup and calibration, and kind of get the most out of it. So Julie's asking, have you heard any news about the Samsung OLED TVs? So not really. I've only kind of paid attention to the state of the 2023 TVs at a high level, and being gone and traveling and being out on a cruise ship, actually, data isn't there. So I was pretty disconnected for the good majority of the last 2 weeks. So I've watched a little bit of news, watched a little bit of YouTube, and all the channel friends content, but I haven't really dug into the TV stuff more. So I'm not up, other than a couple of points related to the LG. I'm not too up on the state of how the 2023 TV releases are faring right now. I would recommend, if you want some of that latest content, check out FOMO, check out Brian's Tech Therapy. You got Tech with KG, Classy, all about TTK. Like those guys are covering, they cover TVs. They've got them all, and they're making videos every week about this versus that, and kind of the state of how they're all performing and what's going on. Yeah. So here's the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I wouldn't pay $10K for a Kaleidescape, even if every movie on there was free to watch. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And a lot of systems, like $10,000, right, for Kaleidescape, it goes a long way. I'm sure that there's a very significant portion of the channel audience that may have systems where they spent $10,000, or even if you're spending $20,000 or 25, 30, it's still tough to find the budget for that. Like you could do, because we have so many things to buy for a home theater, right? Speakers, displays, screens, projectors, processors, amplifiers. You probably got some power protection, cabling, subwoofers, and every one of these things is like a couple $1,000 or whatever. And before you know it, you're in 20, 30K in a lot of systems really easy. And so spending 50% more of a 20K budget to put a Kaleidescape is a tough proposition, or build those systems and come back in a year or two and maybe add it later, or work up to it. But it's tough. It's a tall proposition. Now they added JVC, moved projector mount to the back wall. Yeah. Yep. You know what? I haven't heard much about meetups lately. Michigan home theater meetups. Granted, I don't think I visited AVS Forum too much recently as well, but curious to see. I'm pretty sure there'll be some opportunities to see folks. Actually, you're out on the west side. We will be. So I just refuted the fact that I don't vacation all the time. But midsummer we'll be in Grand Haven for not for vacation so much, but for a soccer tournament. So yeah, we should talk offline. That might put me, I think, pretty close to you over there. I don't know what kind of time I might have for the weekend, but one of the kiddos will be playing sand soccer. We do that tournament every year at Grand Haven. Love Grand Haven. Yeah. Counterpoint. Karen Majors, I said the same thing until I bought one. Yep. Always love it. I love the debate. It's fun. And the cool thing is having positive debate about it, right? So Shane Lee's roasts are funny. I thought Don would be a little bit more harsh. Yeah, that's cool. No, that was a great, the roasting idea is an awesome idea. I've been in the audience watching those a bunch. So, all right. Ooh, you two someday one super sticker, 1999. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll say it again, like every bit of the revenue that comes from Techthusiasm through the Google ad stuff, through the consulting calls that I've been taking, and any other mechanisms, affiliate, everybody that might follow the links that are there for affiliate purchasing. I've got them for Amazon and newly as well, audio advice. I'll talk about that a little bit in a second, but I've businessified. It's not really a word, but I've turned Techthusiasm. It's a brand. It's a business. It exists as a business entity, and the merging together of all this stuff is very much there. And every dollar that flows through the channel from any of its monetized directions, it is going right back into it, right? So that 1999 is right into that Lumigen fund, so that I can buy more stuff and do more stuff. And I think as things get bigger too, I'll probably have some more opportunity to work with more brands and talk with more brands and all that. But in some ways, I kind of like also being a little independent, being able to buy stuff and being a little more about kind of like the personal home theater experience, being a little more vloggy. I think that makes this channel, I think, a little bit unique. Plus, quite honestly, I struggle with the time to be a professional reviewer of any sort. First of all, I'm not like some longtime AV journalist or whatever, like some of the folks out there are. So I've got a different background in that sort of thing. And, this is the side gig. So I've got a full stack, full commitment, really fun, great day job and stuff. And So this is where I struggle, because like I got this Lumigen sitting right here. We got back late Tuesday night. Getting back was a little bit of a nightmare. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I wanted to hook this thing back up. I wanted to do the HDR check. I wanted to do that audio check, and I've struggled to find time to do it. I suppose I could have skipped this stream and done it instead, but it's everything in life is a trade-off, including time, and it's tough. So in some ways, like if I had a whole bunch of brands sending me all kinds of things, I wouldn't be able to do reviews like some of the other channels do, just because I'm not doing this full time. But in any case, if you support the channel, you will see the value of that coming back in content, guaranteed. So yeah, 10 minutes north from Grand Haven. Perfect. Yeah, we'll see what happens when maybe this summer. Love that area. Some of the best beach space in Michigan. If you come to Michigan, I would say you go a couple places. You go to the west side of the state, Grand Haven Beach. You go north, like Traverse City, get yourself to Mackinac Island. We've got some really awesome places here. So what else? That's all. I've exhausted all the comments. If you got more comments, questions, feel free to fire them out. I mentioned the affiliate thing with Audio Advice. Talk about that for a minute. I think that's pretty cool. That kind of happened really kind of right as I was leaving for the trip. I went to the Audio Advice Live last year, had a good time there. That gave me some opportunity to talk with folks at Audio Advice as a company and build some relationships with some of the other YouTube friends as well. And so I'm hoping, my plan is to be at Audio Advice again. I believe it's August 4th to 6th this year, a little bit earlier. And as I understand it, there's going to be a whole gamut of kind of popular home theater and audio social media folks there. So cool chance to see some friends. If you've got any opportunity to get to Audio Advice Live, you'll get to meet, you get to see all kinds of awesome equipment and brands and all that. And you probably get to meet some of these community content creators, and myself included. So, but if you see me talking more, linking more to Audio Advice, I do have an affiliate relationship now set up with them. Doesn't cost you anything, of course, to use those links, just like Amazon, but there is a revenue share that will come back to the channel. And the cool thing about it is, like, Audio Advice offers a few of the brands that I own and talk about a lot. 1, 2, 3 Anthem devices over here. Audio Advice is an Anthem dealer. Kaleidescape, they've got it. And a whole Focal, they've got those too. And a whole gamut of other things. So it's pretty cool that I've made a bunch of friendships with kind of folks offering things that I can refer people to. And I think that's a really good value when I do the consultations or whatever. We talk about a system, you're looking for brands, depending on kind of where you're at, what you're looking for. I got a great contact locally. If you happen to be in Michigan here in the Midwest, I've got some other direct contacts, and now kind of this like broader affiliate relationship with Audio Advice. So if you're looking for some stuff, check them out. Use either the links in the videos or just the code, the referral tag Techthusiasm. If you're talking to them on the phone and scoping out a system and making a purchase or whatever, there's a revenue share back to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything. And that's kind of pure coolness and a fun new element to the channel. And again, if you have the opportunity to go to Audio Advice Live, then we should be there. I posted when I was on the cruise ship once, like, if there happened to be anybody in the channel audience that happened to be on the Odyssey of the Seas, let's meet up for a drink. And I think there was one reply. Somebody else was on another ship at the time, but I didn't cross paths. And I wore these shirts around as well. It's fun. I'm still waiting for my first kind of Techthusiasm abroad identification, or hey, I actually watch your channel. So someday it'll happen. Talking about like referral stuff, a little bit back to Kaleidescape too. I want to deliberately share something that I learned because I didn't know about it. So I've been asking people for a long time, right? Talking about Kaleidescape. Kaleidescape has a referral system. It's not a revenue share. It's not like an affiliate kind of thing directly, because they don't sell directly. They go through the dealers and stuff. But if you, they made the offer or to basically refer people for Kaleidescape platforms, and there was like $100 movie store credit. So I've been talking about that for a while. there's a code. It's in all the videos, like pile 4122, whatever. I should just change it to Techthusiasm as well. I think you're able to do that. And a variety of folks have used the code. I super appreciate if my content helps you understand the Kaleidescape system and helps you to make a decision that you want to be a customer, use the referral. And as I've learned, you don't use the link per se. You put the code in when you register a system, and then that identifies my referral, sends $100 of movie store credit, but it's not just me, it's you too. So, which is pretty sweet. So a couple folks actually shared that, but it's a mutual referral benefit. I don't know if that changed from when the program originally started, but I think that's pretty sweet. So if you're registering Kaleidescape hardware and you see the opportunity to put in a referral code, know that if you use it, you get $100, and I would get $100 of movie store credit as well. So I definitely got some Kaleidescape movies to pick up. Got to cash in on some of those disc to digitals, and then all these new titles coming out. I'm really jonesing to see John Wick 4 and Super Mario. I think the family will dig. My son in particular. As soon as that opens up, we'll be watching Super Mario, and I think the press on that's looking pretty good as well. All right, what else we got? Some Michigan stuff. Great place to eat on the beach, about 5 minutes from my house. Yeah, Western Michigan. I love Michigan. Travis, is the cost of the console posted somewhere? No, I haven't posted it. The way that I've been doing it has been like 60 to 90 minutes, kind of a floating. I don't want it to be limited. So I think overall I'm being pretty gracious with them, because I want to kind of use them to make friends, but I want to use them as a part of the business of the channel. I think they're pretty well priced for the time, and I'm not looking to like nickel and dime anybody minute by minute. I want to get on the phone, see what I can do to help, and have a fun conversation. And I'm trying to focus in on things where I think I can add the most value to them. Meaning, like, I've done a couple where I've taught people Anthem Arc Genesis. I feel pretty good about using that. I obviously use it across a whole gamut of devices here. So, broader audio calibration, like I'm not going to help anybody get the most out of their room with a mini DSP, but Anthem stuff, Arc, I'm all about that. Obviously the ripping, processing discs, the media server stuff, how to set that up, how to do it, players, what are you going to do in your system for your media playback and all of that. And then helping people kind of like suss out plans for their rooms, plans for their systems, like integrating things, brands and levels and models, and how to set this, how to maybe set this stuff up or orient this thing. So I'm batting 1,000 right now, I think, on the feedback. Like everybody that I've talked to, I think has been very happy and pleased with the opportunity. So that's there. If anybody is interested, I would say just reach out to me and we'll work it out. And I am available now, of course, being back from vacation. So Mia's asking, what's the referral code? I presume you mean the Kaleidescape referral code, so I'll post it in. Oh, it's 21432. Yeah, I probably should change it to be Techthusiasm. That would be a lot easier. That's just the one that I was given when I was like enrolled. I don't know what it takes to actually get enrolled in that program. When they launched it, they put me in it. Julius, if you have any experience with smart locks for homes, thinking about getting one for my house. So I use the ones that are Control 4. I'm going to totally forget the name of the ones that I have, but I have to admit, I have not been enamored with them. So they work. They're the kind where they have like, you wave your hand over it and then the numbers light up and you can key in your code. When you leave the house, you can wipe your hand over it and then the door will lock. And you can do some neat stuff with the automation. Like I've got it set certain times of day that the bolts lock, to make sure that, we never go to bed, ideally with a main entry door to our home unlocked, stuff like that. And they support multiple codes, and you can do some really nice like limiting of which codes work during which times a day and stuff like that. But I found that editing the actual the programming of the locks in Control 4 themselves, like adding codes, removing codes, naming codes, it doesn't work very well. I'll have to check with Dan. Honestly, they've been on the house for over 10 years, and I don't remember what model they are. Other than that, I haven't really changed home automation components in so long. Most of the stuff that's here, except for my Control 4 controller itself, I went from an HC800 to an EA5. But most of the things that actually provide control throughout the household are the same things now that they were 10 years ago. So the relays for the garage doors, the ceiling fan, the Control 4 switches, and all that stuff. It's not something that I put a lot of time into researching kind of separately. So maybe more coming up. And I don't know if it'll still be this year, but I really, really want to get cameras on our house. On and around our house, and dealing with the HomeKit part of like using the stuff with Control 4 versus potentially using the stuff with HomeKit or both. There's lacking elements of our automation system that I definitely want to improve. So in terms of what's coming up, I'm going to hopefully continue this Apple TV series that I started. Ready to make a few more of those. I'm going to check in on some streaming bit rates. I've got some more conceptual kind of conversations that I want to have with some of the content, talking about like, what does it mean? What does it really mean for a device to be a luxury device? And what does it mean or not mean to like own things? There's a lot of the debate about streaming and physical media has brokered discussion about, people being concerned about owning things, quote unquote, digitally. So I think that's a fun topic to dive into. Again, we've got the Lumagen stuff. We'll see what happens with there. Maybe just maybe a Mad VR coming through. Got the headphones, and I think I'm ready to just go ahead and buy the Control 4 Halos and get the second one. I've been using one in the living room. Got the old Neo still in the theater. There's still no ETA on the touches, which the longer we go without the Control 4 Halo Touch remote shipping, the more nervous it makes me about its readiness, right? It's kind of feature readiness in general. And so I think I'm liking the non-touch enough to just commit to that one. And the fact that the touch models are going to be a good considerably more expensive than the non-touch. I don't know that the touch will do a whole lot for me in terms of adding features or control that the non-touch doesn't already do for less money. So that's where I'm stuck between like buying the headphones, buying a Lumagen, buying the remotes, and it's kind of still being early in the year. I've been thinking as well. I know I posted the videos coming into the new year about wanting to rejigger the living room a little bit and like move the audio processing and some of the stuff from down here up there. And I'm almost kind of rethinking that a little bit. That was going to be a longer term goal for the year, and I'm still debating it a bit, but I don't know. I think having the equipment down here in this nice big cool room, away, clean room, not dust, cats not jumping on cabinets and stuff like that, and away from the animals of the household. I don't know. I might end up. So what I've been racking my brain with then, and I was really focusing on today, is like what to do with the PC, what to do with the gaming PC. Because I've still, if you've noticed in a lot of the videos lately that or the last month or so, I've been filming in the living room, kind of just have this big honking computer case sitting there and wires stretched in front of my speakers to get back behind the television. And I need to do something better with that. So I've been looking at some other case options. My plan, if I bought the AV cabinet and I moved more of the stuff upstairs, would be to have rebuilt the computer into a console style case and put it in the cabinet. I'm kind of a little bit afraid that it's going to overheat that way. But I found some other cases that look kind of interesting and might be more viable to leave them in the room. And I was even contemplating with the idea of like maybe parting out the PC or breaking the PC down is a better way to say that, and maybe go back to the idea of trying to put it behind the television to some extent. Like if I could wall mount the components of the PC, like GPU, just kind of up above the TV, so that it's able to pull some air in, do the all-in-one kind of flush to the wall on the side, so that's pulling air in from the side of the TV, but it's still obscured, and then do the motherboard right on the wall, get the power supply on the wall there. It doesn't matter that all kind of the wires and stuff would be hanging out. I think that would be pretty neat. And it would get it off the floor. It would get the cats off of it. And I wouldn't need, I would need less, and the PC would still be in the room. So the controller reception problems would potentially go away. And with Street Fighter 6 pending here in June, I would be able to plug in my arcade stick without any trouble. So I don't know. I'm thinking about that, and that might also deferring the idea of doing all of that also kind of frees up some of the revenue potentially for the Lumigen. And I've got a couple other things going on with theater seats potentially still open as well. So lots to come on the channel this year, and yeah, that's that. So you some day one says, yeah, with you on the Control 4 mount, battery life on the Hero. I think it did as well. I've been trying to do the experiment of like leaving it on the coffee table until I need to charge it again and seeing like how many days that is in between. But one of the more recent firmware updates, was supposed to have improved that. And then, oh, here, what did he send me? Yeah, Dan sent me another one. Halo firmware 1.2 is coming. This is actually already supposed to be out, starting March 23rd. Firmware update is focused on network reliability and stability improvements, added a room off confirmation toggle, improved stability of Wi-Fi connections, and a couple of other general improvements like that. So I'll have to verify if my remote is running 1.2, or actually, was that right? The right version? Yeah, 1.2. I know before the last update, 1.1 point something was supposed to improve battery life, and some of those other characteristics. So it's good to see. This is really what you want to see in a new product, particularly from Control 4, right? Who's been very clear here. Their history of remote reliability has been a little weak. So they need to support these Halos. We need to see firmware updates every 2 or 3 weeks. No indication yet about like the jump lists or the selections off of the single, double, and triple dot hard buttons. That's one of the things that I'd really like to see, at least or until perhaps I get the Lumigen, because that's where I would do my aspect ratio management or like lens memory recalls and stuff off of. But that becomes less of a concern as well. So actually, that's another reason why I was feeling like I don't know that I feel like I need the touch, because if I buy the Lumigen, I have to do a whole lot less manual control in the theater. The Lumigen does it all. So having like software buttons on the screen of the touch to jump to specific aspect ratio, lens memory recalls and stuff like that, that was really one of the only things that I used the custom buttons on the Neo for. So if that goes away, because the Lumigen is taking care of all the aspect ratio management, then even more so, like I don't think I need the touch, especially for the cost. So yeah, I just need to send Dan the text, basically, bring me another Halo, non-touch, give me the bill, and let's lock these down. So Terminator saying losing HDMI CEC with the JVC really put a damper. Yeah. Yeah, CEC can be really great. It can be troublesome as well. I've never really taken advantage, or for the longest time, I've never really taken advantage of CEC in the theater, because as soon as you do a multi-zone kind of setup, you really don't want to use CEC. CEC has like no clue which displays or which devices it should be controlling. So Control 4 helps quite a lot with that. The only way that I would get out of Control 4 from a control perspective and wouldn't even do the halo is if I were some way, somehow, some reason decided to commit to like only using an Apple TV. So as long as I have the Kaleidescape, and particularly with no video processor, there's a lot of value in having the Control 4 remote, particularly in the theater. If I were to go Apple TV only, I would really try to construct my system that the only remote that I use would be the Apple TV remote, and stick to that instead. Yeah, Terminator says, I don't want to spend the money for Control 4. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's really weird. Like in a lot of our hobby, control, it's like one of the most important pieces of our systems, right? It's the entire interface to using the thing, using our stuff. And it's just like, Logitech pulled the plug on Harmony. Like nobody can make good remotes. And the one that was, had at least an accessible price point and tons of people seemed to use and really enjoy and worked pretty well, went away, and it's got this void. It's like, how is there not a market opportunity for remote controls? Maybe we're just in the niche of this. I don't know. Like if the masses are just using the TV apps, then they use the TV remote, I guess, and they don't need a remote. Or if the masses just have the Apple TV or just have a Roku or just have a Fire TV, then yeah, they use that remote CEC to turn stuff on and change the volume. And you're done. But as soon as you add a second source, you really kind of want something else, right? If you have the Blu-ray player, you have the local media player, or you have the Kaleidescape or something. And I there's still some other values in it too, even if I were to go like less sources for whatever reason, because I like being able to I've got macros set up. I really need to talk about this in future content. And I've been alluding to the idea that I'm going to get Dan on for a Wednesday night, and we'll pull up my Control 4 configuration and look at all the different things, macros and functions and programs and stuff that I have run. But one of the things that I really like is I've got a little macro set up, and I can put it on one of the hard buttons of the Halo Touch for gaming, basically for the living room, which is like, show me the game optimizer, without having to open the drawer and get the LG remote out and find the right button or whatever. I can just boom, hit triple dot on the Halo. And in that macro, it makes the LG pull up the game optimizer. I can see frame rate, I can see settings or whatever. And then it like sets a timer or like a 5-second delay, and then it dismisses the menu. It's like, that's great. Stuff like that is the merit, right, of a configurable and programmable control system. So you someday want, 1.2 did it for me for battery. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to verify. I could probably do it right here, actually. Let me launch my VM. Let me see what firmware we're running. Let that load in the background. Verify if we've got 1.2. Oop. Terminator asking, yeah. So you have to adjust the shift and focus the JVC each time you turn it on. No. You would not want to be doing that. So that's where the lens memories come in. It's like the third menu option over. I think it's the second or third on the JVC is the lens memory setting. It's where you basically set things like shift and focus and certain aspects of the presentation of the projector. And then in there, I believe there's 10 different memories. And so you can change between them and recall them and copy settings from one to the other and stuff like that. So like if you have a 16:9 screen, you really shouldn't have to change anything around. You would set that all up once, and then your system would stay on that memory, and you'd never have to tweak anything. Once you get the right shift and zoom, then you focus it, and then you're done. In my case, or in other cases where, again, somebody has a scope screen and you have you're zooming. Now I got to restart my VM to launch Windows and get to the Control 4 stuff. But you're zooming. You would set different zooms and shifts, and then focus, at different levels. So I have 3 primary zoom stops in my, or 4 actually, in my zoom system: a 16:9, a 185:1, a full zoom widest possible scope, and then another full zoom widest possible scope where the image is shifted up a little bit to account for streaming apps where the subtitles are in the black space below the screen. And that's it. And then I use the Control 4 system to recall it. Let me get the JVC remote. I will be right back in 5 seconds. So on the JVC remote, it's this button right here. Get that to settings memory. So when you hit that, it pulls up a list of your lens memory settings, and you can recall the one that you want to get to, like up or down in list. And you can name them whatever you want, stuff like that. Yeah, use some to, yeah. So if you get the Lumigen, the aspect ratio will work from the Lumigen. Wouldn't even have to use the Halo for it. Exactly. Yep. And it's so good. So I really tried to, that's the main point that I really tried to capture in that video, in that first review, because that was really what my whole point of investigation, in understanding the value of the Lumigen and the things that it can do for a system, right? That's what it was really all about for me, was that system integration piece and aspect ratio control. And it's so nice. It's so nice. If I buy Control 4, yeah. So a lot of people say that, you know, that's the downside, but it is what it is. You also get a lot of additional power and reliability and stuff because it is a dealer supported and such a developed system. And quite honestly, I think, you know, realistically, amongst all the different control, you got Crestron, Savant, and some others like that, you're going to spend more money on those. Control 4 is the most budget. And they've gone lower market, like the entry point controllers and stuff like that. Once you get it set up, you can do a lot. And I'll show this coming up again. It's something I really need to get onto one of the streams. In Home Composer, as an individual, you have pretty much carte blanche to program your system. The only things you really can't do is add, remove, and restructure the project. That's what you need the dealer for. However, you're nice and local, or relatively local. So, you know, if you're interested in a system, talk to Dan. So some dealers will like, oh yeah, you want me to add that thing, whatever, $200, right? So, Dan's pretty flexible. He stands by his Control 4 installations, and you're only a couple hours away. So you might find your way into it at some point. And again, I reach out to Dan as a friend of the channel. He'll hook you up. Yeah, do you love my new Halo? Might want to upgrade to the touch. Yeah, we'll see. I wanted to handle both and be able to and put both of them fully through their paces before committing to one or making a decision. But the ongoing delay of getting the touch, I might just go ahead and just commit to the non-touches. We'll see. But even if I decide to buy the touches, or sorry, buy the non-touches, with Dan, hopefully he'll still give me a touch to play with for a short while and do some review content on and all that. And if I buy the nons and get the touch in my hand, hopefully I don't feel regretful. That's the main thing. I don't want to have buyer's remorse once I do actually get a chance to try the new one out. So do you welcome again? Have you heard per listen speakers? I have not. They're such the darling of so many channels right now. I would very much like to experience per listen speakers. I don't know if they'll be at Audio Device Live this year. That would be cool if they are. But yeah, I'm looking for an opportunity to try their stuff out, and we'll see what happens. Part of my whole goal for rejiggering the living room was to make it modular and be able to change in-wall speakers flexibly in that space, so that I could potentially, you know, get some per listen in walls and put them in, or the paradigm, the new paradigms and others. So that's, even if I don't take all the processing stuff up to the living room, and redo things up there like that, I think it will still be a goal to redo and be able to try some different speakers as the channel grows and more opportunities come up. I really want to be able to try different speakers, and I think that's my best way for going about it. And I want to really focus on architectural and in walls, because that's what my whole house is built around. So Terminator says, I use a lens memory, but even if I don't change it from the last usage when I power up, I don't think there's a setting to, like, you know, revert to basics. I'm not sure why it would be doing that, honestly. The JVC is very good about, my NX7 has always been very good about going back to its last settings. Are you, well, is your mount unstable, perhaps? You know, if your mount is shifting physically, you could be readjusting to compensate for something else. It seems probably unlikely. I would suspect you've got that locked down pretty good, but that's the only other thing that comes to my mind. That too, actually, I didn't have it in the review video that I made, but I think that's probably another merit, actually, of having the Lumigen manage all that stuff, is, you know, using lens memories and constantly on a per use basis, having your projector reshift and realign, like all of this stuff is motor driven, right? And there's got to be some like margin of error in the positioning of those motors. And so getting everything locked down to one zoom, one shift, and one focus state, and then not changing it, versus using lens memories to go from mode 1 to 2 to 3 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 1 to 2. Over time, there's got to be some drift, I would imagine, some tolerance in there, and a crude drift where you're not getting back to exactly the right focus or exactly the right position. And so I think there's some other merits in the Lumigen just to avoid any potential of that. So Rob says, I still haven't used my Harmony, control everything from the iPad. Starting to not work is great, but still works. So what doesn't work as great anymore? Is there like new devices that aren't in the database, or curious what you mean by not working? At some point, you know, they'll probably pull the plug on a whole lot more of the Harmony related stuff. So people are going to need other solutions. You some day one thinking about upgrading my Epson 12,000 to a JVC. Did you see a big difference? Would you upgrade? So, you know, speaking for my own pocket and my own dollars, I had both an NX7 and a 12,000 in my hand. I could have hung either one of them up, and I chose to keep the NX7 for a couple of reasons. Predominantly the fact that I like the native 4K. Whether I can see it or not, I know it, and that bothers me. I want it for movies, watching with 4K signals, and streaming with 4K signals, and gaming at native 4K. Potentially, I want a true native 4K panel for the peace of mind of it, and the black levels and the other virtues of the JVC, and not having a processor as well. If you don't have a processor, you want that tone mapping, you want that JVC tone mapping. If you've got the Lumigen, then maybe your choices open up a little bit, and it becomes more about perhaps native 4K, peace of mind of native 4K, and JVC black levels. But we had them. I had multiple AVS friends over 2 occasions, and on all of the occasions, everybody universally preferred the NX7. So I like JVC as a brand in general. I like what they do with their units and all of that stuff. I haven't really given Sony a whole lot of due in the projector realm, predominantly because since they've added it, like it's been all about JVC tone mapping and using that. If I step away from JVC tone mapping, then perhaps I will consider some other options. But for me personally, peace of mind, I would buy a native 4K projector only. So it may be more of a question of like Sony versus JVC. Does the Sony do something in motion or processing that the JVC doesn't? Is JVC still better in black levels, which I really get a lot out of, I think, in my room, because I have a bat cave, right? It's all flat black, except for a little bit of trim. Everything in that space is black, like fully light controlled, and all of that. So the other thing that I've been seeing more tendency towards is people that are gaming have a preference for the 12,000. So if you're a hardcore home theater gamer, input latency and stuff like that, the 12,000 may hold some merit for you. I don't put a lot of value in that for the home theater, because I generally am fine to do my gaming in the living room on the LG panel. I think it's far superior, despite the smaller size and not having a surround system. Just the display, the OLED display, its speed, and all of that. No projector is going to be able to match that from a gaming perspective. So yeah, trade-offs and choices. But if you're going to upgrade to something and you can get yourself into a NZ8 or even an NZ9 or something like that, but even like an NZ7, yeah, my preference would still go to JVC. And as you said, you have the Lumigen already, so you're good to go. Good to go there. D saying, love your video on Trinoff. Trying to decide between Trinoff and Storm. Leaning towards Trinoff because speaker placement not traditional. Side surrounds are in the ceiling. Yeah, that was interesting. My opportunity with the Trinoff came like right at the beginning, really, of doing this stuff, doing the channel. It was very limited. It wasn't really supported actively, and I think to get the most out of a Trinoff, you really need support. So historically, people look at my videos on Trinoff and they might come off a little more negative. I guess I didn't know what to expect getting a hold of it, and I don't really have, again, that complex of a space. So to me, like, I've been really happy with the Anthem stuff, but Trinoff and Storm, they have their place in our hobby, rightfully earned, in terms of what they do, the power encompassed within them, the audio quality, the like technical merits and caliber and all that stuff. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those. And there's a variety of folks around the YouTube space using both of them. Gene from Audioholics, I think, has the Storm. Shane, if he's still out there, he's got the Trinoff. I know folks. I tend to know more folks, I think, with Trinoffs than Storms, but I don't think you can go wrong. And again, like fully technically supported and dealing with room challenges and placement challenges and all that. I think that's where that stuff really excels. So Rob, this is in response to what the Harmony is or is not doing. Sometimes the auto on won't turn the projector on or off when I power down. Couldn't switch the program. Yeah, so it's really flaking out. I don't know if that's something maybe on their back end or what, but I tried to turn my system on today, actually, just a couple hours ago. I was going to update the gaming PC and check in on that, because I spent some time this morning strategizing what the future of the gaming PC structure and positioning might be. And my LG TV didn't turn on again. I'm like, oh my God, is this the freaking power problem? Is it back with the new board? And I think what I'm finding is one of my Ethernet lines is suspect, and it might have actually completely dropped out now. I noticed using using the LG increasingly intermittently, but increasingly so. There would be a pop-up on the screen like lost internet connection. A couple of seconds later, internet connection regained. And so I think something is flaked with the Ethernet run between the rack and the TV. So I just actually texted Dan about it. I'm like, hey, the next time you're over, we got to re-terminate the two ends of this Ethernet line, this Cat 5 or Cat 6 line, and reconnect it stronger. I think there's something is loose or something isn't there. It sucks when stuff doesn't work. Definitely. We spend all this money on these things, and then we go to use them and it doesn't work. And especially like you got a family and the stuff doesn't work. It's like, it just looks like a big old waste. As soon as the wife or the kids or whatever tries to go do something, and it's not working. And we set up all this awesome, expensive, high tech stuff, and then it fails. It's hard to justify. Hard to justify it after that. So, well, we're at an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody coming out. I'll stick around for a few more. Any other last questions, comments, thoughts? So I got to get cracking on some content. I've only got one video left made from before vacation, and so I think I'm probably going to have to put that one up. So the Apple TV perfect your Apple TV series may move from Wednesday to Monday this week, because that's the one video that I have made. Try and spin out some more stuff and get some content in the kitty. We'll be back with some more live streams coming up with some more special guests, some of my co-streamers, and then hopefully even some new ones coming up. And yeah, start pulling the trigger here on some more equipment. Probably get these remotes, get these headphones, and other stuff. I haven't moved on the amps really at all as well. I was really getting keen to want to change out the Parasound and try those NADs, the Master Series NADs, but I haven't gone full bore. I didn't want to put anything up for sale right before vacation and then not be in a position to negotiate with somebody or get something shipped to them. But my new thought, maybe as a segue, is to perhaps put the A31 up. And if I find a buyer with a good price for the A31, I think what I could do is pick up one NAD M28. So I'll go from 3 channels to 7 channels, and I'll run the main 3 in the theater off of it, and then I'll run the 2 mains in the living room and the 2 subwoofers off of it. And I can eliminate the A31 and both of the Triad rack amps, and then consider what to do from there with the remainder of the stuff. But I've got a whole lot of space here. If I decide not to pursue the idea of putting a cabinet and moving the living room audio processing upstairs, I think what'll happen is it'll just come back over here, essentially. So one STR, one M28 for the living room, and then keep the other side focused there on the theater. And I need to make room. For Lumagen. There's no room in the rack right now. Or if I'm able to get my hands on a Mad VR, I'd want it to go in that slot. So I want to make a little bit of blank space on the home theater side for new equipment and other stuff that might come along. So D's saying, understand going through the same thing with the Anthem 70 HDMI board. Yeah, yep. It's all trade-offs. Yeah, it's all trade-offs. I haven't done. I've been meaning to call them my local shop where I bought my Anthem from at the time, because I didn't have all the connections that I have today. But I bought it from a local Michigan home theater store, and I had reached out to them about the 8K boards, and they said they would get them, and nobody's gotten in touch with me. I even told them, like, hey, I've got this channel, and we could do a video about it, bringing it in, talk about your shop, do the upgrade, and nobody ever got back to me. But I have almost zero need, or essentially zero need right now anyway, for passing true HDMI 2.1 signals through the preamp. So I haven't really been inclined to bother with it. And so I'm sure I'll get it at some point, but $500, it's like $500 either buys a pretty significant portion of the headphones, which I would actively sit at my desk and use almost every day. It buys a pretty significant portion of, permanently owning the Halo Touches or whatever, versus putting some HDMI or changing HDMI connections that are already working for a level that I'm not even gonna use. So you saw, yeah, Audio Control. Yeah, that Audio Control looks like a cool company. I've looked at their stuff. I think I cross-shopped some of their stuff a little bit when I made the choice to buy the Anthem. Solid with a decent price point. So one of the things that I want to make this video actually, so I don't want to spoil a little bit too much, but I feel like a lot of companies, when they make their amps and they decide, okay, how many channels do we want to put in an amp? They're not like, they haven't gotten with the times. And so, 11 channels, 13, 15, seven's like kind of is not a great number so much nowadays. I suppose you may have a five bed layers and 2 overheads, or but as soon as you start adding Atmos in, like we need more 4 and 8 channel amplifiers, basically. So I'm having a real hard time with the channel counts, particularly if I try to keep all my stuff together down here, because right now it's working fine. I've got 3, 5, and 5. So I've got 13. I've got 11 channels, and then I've got 2 amplifiers for the subwoofers in the living room. So technically I've got 15 channels that I need to amplify of stuff out of the rack. If I buy 2 M28s, I got 14 channels. So what do I buy? What do I buy instead? I gotta buy a third something, and it doesn't plug in very well. Like they need NAD needs like a 3 channel, like a 4 channel, or ideally even an 8 channel version of the M28. Like that would be phenomenal. If I could buy a 7 and an 8, that would be great. But two 7s, they only have 2 channels and 7s, and that just messes my whole system up. And I was looking at like, well, maybe I'll do one M28, 7 channels, and that I'll run the main 3 of the theater, and I'll run the 2 speakers and 2 subs in the living room, and then I'll go get a monoprice, right? Go get like a monoprice Class D. I think they have an Encore. They have an 8 channel. Perfect. The theater, use that for the remainder of the theater, the 4 surrounds and the 4 overheads. But I'm too OCD to do that. Like I want everything to be the same. But I need different counts. So yeah, D looking at the M28 also. So that's exactly it. So that's what I was saying. Buckeye is not too far from here, actually. Where he runs his business. That's probably the most intelligent thing that I could do if I wanted to get everything to Class D and not overspend or be wasteful. Would be to go M28, share it between the 2 rooms, keep the audio of the living room down here, and then add an 8 amp Encore for those surround and ambiance channels of the theater. So, but I don't know, it's just like the idea of like the mixed brands, and I don't know. I wish Edward Colbreath, welcome Edward. I wish Apple would enable add bitstream pass-through for Plex. You and me and many others of us all. We'll see. Very eager. WWDC is now 2 months away, and we'll see. Will we get Stonewalled? They didn't even mention tvOS last year. Very sad. I hung on the conference the whole time waiting. Awesome tvOS news. At least we got a new Apple TV last year with some nice improvements and things like that. But tvOS, nothing. So maybe this will be the year. We will see. I think we've got more of a chance to see something, at least, although it's been pretty quiet as well. The whole idea of like DTS audio streaming and the IMAX enhanced stuff, I don't think any of that's gone live yet, but Apple has to do some stuff to catch up and support that. So yeah, not yet. Well, yeah, not missing anything on the 8K boards. Yeah, no, because I'm not passing anything through it right now that would matter. If I run the PC, I got the PC directly connected to the TV upstairs. It's not passing through it. So I'm under no impetus to do that upgrade. We'll see. Yeah, Buckeye 4, 8, and 6, or 4, 6, and 8. Yeah, there's in Class D, it's a lot easier to find these types of channel counts. Another one that I liked a lot, actually, looking at some of the Class D offerings, was Apollon. They're out of the UK, and it's a little bit more involved, I think, to order their stuff and get it here and whatever. But from a fit and finish and just the way their stuff looked. I really, really liked the look of the Apple on Audio. Anybody from Apple on Audio watching, let me know. Yeah, Terminator had trouble finding a 4-channel amp, so I had to go with dual 2s. Yep. Yeah, we need more 4 and 8s. Yeah, 8 channels probably at extra cost to these companies. So I think the thing with the class, it's a little more common in the Class D side of things because like the way the amplifiers power and the electrical connections or whatever, they work well in pairs, and so you see that a little bit more. But like an NADM 28, the chassis is full with 7. Like there's not physical room to have put an 8th module in there. So and then last one here. Yep, the audio 4-channel audio control amps like the Avalon. Yep. Yeah, we'll see. It's something else that I'm going to research. The nice thing about it is like changing amps is probably at the bottom of it's really at the bottom of the priority list right now, especially as I kind of diminish the idea that I may move the STR upstairs. If I leave this stuff down here, everything's connected right now, stable, everything's working pretty well. Yeah, I get that. I get a little of that passive buzz in the living room, but it's inaudible from the listening seat. And as soon as you have even a little bit of sound coming out of the speakers, it's nothing. In the theater, it's quiet. So it was more of an academic and personal interest versus any like probably real tangible return of swapping that stuff out. But getting the remotes, having the headphones, getting the Lumigen, like all of that stuff is so much more impactful than anything else. So we'll see where things go in the long run. I'll get everything very much advanced where I want it to be, and keep shopping and musing in the meantime. So Michael, Audio Advice announced for August. Yeah, I think audioadvice.live. Actually, they put out a video, I think just yesterday or even maybe this morning, promoting the event. But it's been public for a while. It's August 4th through the 6th, Friday to Sunday. And I need to book my tickets actually, because I took a look at the flights and they're already kind of limited capacity to try to get good times and not end up having to stay longer. But hoping to be there. Techthusiasm will hopefully be at Audio Advice Live with a handful of other YouTube social media friends. So if you're in the area or you can make it, it was cool. It was really fun last year, and look forward to it this year again. Yeah, I mentioned I do hope Apple does something. TVOS in general, not seen. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I like the Apple TV. I like Apple devices quite a lot. I'm pretty committed to sticking with the Apple TV as my main general use box, and I hope they continue to invest in it and do the right things with it. Really push on it hard, as they could own the home theater space if they really wanted to. Yeah, stop by them in Raleigh. Yeah, I'm starting to like make friends and get more in touch with a variety of folks around the country. It's like, oh, I got to travel here. If we end up traveling here, I need to like stop and see these people. And Brad, home theater gamer, I knew I was going to be. I thought I was going to be relatively close to Brad, and I had even reached out to him too, because coming where we came through in Florida, there we were going to be close to Youthman, to Michael, and I'd actually messaged him a little while back before the trip. It's like, hey, like we may have some time when we land and we're getting places. Like it'd be cool, let's get a drink, get a coffee, whatever, as we're coming through. But it's hard with like the whole family. And then the day we actually traveled was my son's birthday. He was really bummed about like spending a lot of his birthday day in the airport and on the plane. It's like, yeah, boohoo kid, you get to go to Florida. And he didn't know about Legoland though, because that was a surprise. But so it's like, yeah, Crimea River, you're pretty privileged that you have to spend your birthday on an airplane. but still, we landed, and we ended up going other things. But then after the fact, talking with Brad, he's like, "You were like in my backyard." I'm like, oh man. So I missed the opportunity to see those guys, but it's funny, like making connections, which is awesome. It's like the super fun part of being in the channel and getting connected to other people and getting engaged in community, like hanging out with other home theater enthusiast people in Michigan, and having more conversations with people around the country. It's like, oh, if we travel there, yeah, like we got to stop by and check out rooms, and maybe even try to film something or whatever. So let me tell you, my wife loves the idea of taking all of our family vacations and stopping for home theater demos. But we'll see what's up with that. Yeah, WWC in June. Like that's so if following Apple, right? They do hardware announcements throughout the year. iPhones always get announced in September ish, and then they come out shortly thereafter. And then you probably get hardware announcements like around March, sometimes in October. But that's all hardware. Like Apple software features for in the roadmap of those features for the coming year are defined in June. So WWDC is Worldwide Developer Conference. A lot of companies do this. Google has one. Microsoft has actually a couple of events where that are all software focused announcements. And sometimes they announce hardware. Oh man, excuse me. Been a while, I'll need a drink. Sometimes they announce hardware at WWDC as well. But again, all of the major releases and the roadmaps of the new OSs, tvOS, iPadOS, iPhone, and Mac get announced there. And then they spend the rest of the year, developing and working towards releasing those features in the minor like point releases. So we're on 16 right now. 16 was announced for all of the stuff last June. And I think we're up to like 16.4, 16.5, depending on the device. So in a couple months, we'll get the 17 version of everything with all the new features and all the new capabilities. So what you want to watch for is the opening keynote. Tim Cook will open the show, and then he'll usually pass off to a variety of like the leadership involved in different parts of the Apple software ecosystem. And we will sit there as the show goes on, hoping that he pitches to somebody to talk about all of the really cool tvOS features and capabilities coming in 17. Because last year they said nothing. After the show, we still had a tvOS 16, and there's been features added throughout, from then and over the course of the year. But it didn't make the show. They didn't talk about it. It was just press release information that came out after the fact. And then, of course, all the developers are there for a few days to take classes and learn how to code in the Apple ecosystem and build features and sort of all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. There's been rumors Apple might be looking to enter. Yeah, that goes all the way back like to Steve Jobs, and then kind of the swerve that the TV became, the TV display that might have been the Apple thing would ended up being the Apple TV. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't expect Apple to make a large format living room television display, but maybe they will. I just hope we don't get a whole bunch of like AR, VR crap, and then all of these more, all these other things are left unevolving, and it just becomes all these kinds of other things. So Michael asking, if you had to guess, when will you upgrade to 8K? Yeah, so the projector's 4K. I don't know. We'll see when it becomes more accessible. There's really no content. Who knows, like if we'll see an 8K Kaleidescape. I don't think we'll ever see an 8K disc. Will we see some 8K streaming? So I don't think they need to do 8K streaming. I think they need to double up or triple up the bit rates of the 4K video that we are streaming right now, and make that higher quality. So I have no real worry or concern. I think for me about 8K, even right now with the gaming PC, a 4090 GPU, yeah, maybe I could play Overcooked at 8K, but I'm not probably going to play God of War or something new at a reasonable enough frame rate to make that worth it. And sitting 14 feet back from 83 inches, I'm not going to probably see it anyway. So I think we've got time, and I wouldn't make any system decisions right now really around the concept of 8K. You know, JVC advertises 8K with the NZ projectors, but it's shift in processing and stuff like that. It's not native. And again, we don't, aside from some very specific things, we don't have content. So I'm not too worried about it. I'd like to see better 4K, more completely through everything. That said, the only reason that I could see having it, probably the only way that I'm babbling, trying to put this thought together. The way that I would see 8K entering my household first would probably be in the living room, like true 8K. So I would like to have an NZ projector or whatever the next level beyond that is. But I might not even end up using that stuff. If I recall correctly, I think Chris's recommendation had been like, if you have the NZ, like you don't even and Illumigen, you don't even necessarily want the 8K E-shift stuff turned on. But I've spent a lot of time lately thinking about the living room project, as I was talking about, and like what would be a bigger TV that I could get in there. And somebody asked in one of the comments for the dimensions of the cubby where the TV is sitting in, and I kind of messed that up. Actually, I ended up with like I didn't keep it to like a true 178 to 1 aspect ratio, so it's a little taller than it is wide. And even if I got like a 97-inch G2, I'm like right on the hair of it fitting in there widthwise, and there'll be a little bit of a gap above and below. I was looking at like the TCL 98, and the TCL 98 would actually would overfill the cubby, but if I could push it all the way up into the cubby, it would kind of fill that. But 88's like the perfect size TV, I think, for that that space, or for that cubby, which would leave me like a little bit, just a few inches of opening, because I do need probably to let some heat out, just convection heat rising up and out of the cubby needs to have and then you don't just want to have a gap at the top. You probably want the display to be equally spaced inside the inset. So the LG Z2 or whatever at 88 inches is like ideal to fit in there. But even then, like my interest in that TV isn't necessarily based on the fact that it's 8K. It's based on the fact that it's 5 inches bigger than an 83, and it fits the cubby really well. So we'll see where things go with that. I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. So WWC though is really going to focus on the new XDR display, or their OLED variant. Yeah, I mean they're putting money into releasing monitor size displays, but look at what the desktop display from Apple costs, and they're going to do that at scale at 55, 65, 77 or bigger, and not have it be completely cost prohibitive. I don't know. Yeah, Netflix can't even do 4. Yeah, right. We got a lot of room for 4K to continue to get better before worrying too much about 8. So Michael, yeah, we talked about this earlier in the stream. I'm not feeling compelled to upgrade the TV this year. I don't think like the 83 G2 or G3 doesn't do all the same things that the smaller G3s do. So it's really much more of like a side grade, I think, from the G2 to the G3. And I'm not going less than 83 ever again in the living room for a TV that I own. So I've got too many other things that I could spend money on that would be more impactful to my systems. Headphones, Lumigen, Control 4 remotes, chairs, and a couple of other things that last year I thought I might do a yearly TV upgrade, but I would only be doing it for the content. And so again, I've got too many other things to do. If I map out my system plans like over a longer period of time, let's say I have a 3-year plan for all of my stuff, and hopefully again kind of funding it through this whole Techthusiasm endeavor. This year, my goal is to kind of like get more utility stuff in place, right? Get the remotes settled, get the headphones and more of like some studio stuff settled, get the video processor in the system, do the chairs, and get some other installation type things settled. And then I could see like 2024. And well, then there's three other big steps after that I would like to take of buying things. There's also the side grading of the amps as well, but that is a side grade. These Parasounds are pretty expensive. I would be selling them, transferring money over. So like switching whatever I might switch to, if I go Class D on the amps, isn't a whole lot of extra spending because I'll recover a lot of the Parasound money. So I don't count that as like as a big expenditure. But in terms of buying up or buying new things, 2023 is the year of utility. And then I would like to go up to an AVM 90 and add 2 subwoofers to the room. That's a decision that would go hand in hand with each other, because I wouldn't add more subs until I can add a processor that independently EQs and manages them. And I wouldn't go from a 70 to a 90 just for the audio improvements for home theater without also plugging in more subwoofers. So that's a several $1,000s purchase at least. Even if I went the route of buying 2 more Arundel subs, and actually Audioholics, I need to catch up on a couple of their videos, but they've been putting their they've had a couple of Arundel reviews and breakdowns and stuff, which was nice. I love confirmation bias, right? Andrew Robinson reviewed his first Anthem product and really loved it overall. And then Audioholics talking to Arundel, great sub. So I'm always happy to see positive reviews of stuff that I bought. But AVM 70 to 90, that's going to cost a few grand and an upgrade, and then $2,500. So actually, that's probably close to $7,500 or so. That would be one thing that I would like to do as a next big expenditure that would be very impactful, tangibly impactful to the room. After that, then I think my focus is on upping the displays, getting to NZ9 level projector territory for the theater, and getting to the next level of display for the living room. If that's an 88-inch Z3 or a 90 some inch G whatever, or Samsung or whatever ends up fitting, because I got to deal with the fit logistics, assuming we still live in this house and we haven't moved or anything. So that's one of the other big expenditures coming. And then from there, even I would like to step up the speakers. Like if I stay Focal brand, go from the 1000s that I have to the Utopias and stuff like that. So I'm going to hit a point where like I've got everything in a really nice point of stasis. All the utility stuff is pretty set, and there'll be minor point upgrades or side grades or whatever along the way. But those are the bigger directions that I want to go. So that's probably even when I might consider a bigger TV, unless the channel opens something else. So there's a couple other comments. Just talking about displays. Yeah, Michael's asking, how's the consulting going? Yep. So I it's kind of on hiatus for a couple weeks while I was gone for vacation, but I've got a couple folks that have inquired right now, and I'm available. So if anybody wants to do sessions, let me know. Yeah, Michael and I, we had some conversation back a couple weeks ago. Super fun, and I want to definitely continue doing those. All right, I'm going to call it. I got to go 2 hours. We got to go check on the kiddos and get on to family stuff, color some Easter eggs and all that. So everybody, thanks so much for churning out. It was fun to hang out again after kind of 2 weeks being offline. Check out all the new channel content that's coming. There'll be more live streams posted coming up. Got to knock out knock out, edit, and post some more content, and we're going to keep rolling along. And think about it. If you can make it, Audio Advice Live, August, beginning of August, hoping to, planning to be there. So cool. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Please do all that regular YouTube stuff. And, remember, if you're so inclined, all the different ways to support the channel, the affiliate links and all that are there. Audio Advice, Amazon, membership, super thanks, Kaleidescape, and more. Thanks so much for watching. Coming back for more home theater discussion and fun.